Hello everyone. Thank you again for being with us with Tell Me Something Good. For our segment of Someone You Should Know, with us today is Mr. Tony Hylton.
So I lived and grew up in the Bronx, New York. And I used to spend a lot of time at my grandma's house. My grandmother, my father's mother, used to have pictures hanging up in the living room. I didn't really know exactly the historical significance of those pictures. One of those is this picture here. Now, this picture and two other portraits of my father and my Uncle Robert hung in the living room at my grandmother's house in the Bronx, New York. And we never really truly understood the history behind and the significance behind those pictures. So as a child, I used to get up on the weekends and spend some time with my grandmother, and always used to wonder, why was it, as a curious kid, why was it that she would always grab my hand and pull me into the back of the bus? And I told her one time, I said, Grammy, you know, I want to see the coins drop. So those were the machines at the front of the bus where the coins would drop, and I was fascinated by it. But she would always grab my hand, always walk me to the back of the bus, and make me sit down. So again, pieces of American history that I've lived and witnessed were never really evident until I became older in life. The most significant thing, and I say one of the things that I'm most proud of, is the fact that these pictures represented a piece of history that I didn't learn in the 60s in elementary school, or in the 70s in high school, and going into almost the 80s in college. They didn't tell you the story of a significant part of American military history, the Tuskegee Airmen, of which my father was one, and I remain proud to this day. He passed away in 2006, but along that journey, in me finding out about the history of the Tuskegee Airmen, I used to remember one thing that as always has been burned and etched in my memory. And that is when my father was able to buy a house for my oldest sister, myself, my mom, and my dad to move into. It was in Westchester County, New York, in a place called Mount Vernon. We had a pretty big basement at the time. That basement was prone, like a lot of structures back in the 50s and 60s, was prone to flooding in the basement. In the very, very rear corner of our basement, there was a room. It was a storage room. And we used to go down there and we used to play. I used to keep the dog down there. It used to be a place that was cold and damp. My dad had a little desk down there. He used to do his work. And also, there was a fuse box. Fuses would blow in that house every now and then. He taught me how to go down to the rear of the basement and open the fuse box. But these little things, one of which was in that room, a foot locker. A foot locker that was filled with history that I was not aware of as I was growing up. It said Tuskegee, Alabama. It had pictures, it had flight jackets, there was a nail in a wooden post in that room, and there was a uniform that hung down on it. And it was something that I used to call a Snoopy helmet. It was a mask that they had to use, an oxygen mask that they had to use when they were in some of the planes of the day, the fighter planes. So to me, they were just old clothes. It was a duffel bag. It was a flight uniform. It was just stuff that was part of my father's legacy that I truly didn't understand the significance of. And as I began my journey and understanding exactly what it was, my father was growing older and older. But I will say this, that around the time I got to college in the early 70s, I actually did know what significance the Tuskegee Airmen played. And so I continued on that journey of understanding what they did, why they did it, and what their significance in American history was.